When I met Zelda, I knew that she had this spark. She just wanted to learn about the world. And she told me from the very beginning, Miss Holly, I want to be able to read a Braille book. So I was trying to figure out how to way to integrate the auditory and the Braille in order to give her that literacy that she needed.
The weather report says it's moggy, so that means the weather said weather changes. We might have rain chances coming up.
Zelda is silly, so funny. She never gives up.
She's very intuitive and responds well to people.
She's magical.
My name is Evan Voiles. This is my wife, Gail Chauvin. We are the parents of Zelda and Creed Voiles.
At a very early age, I knew that Zelda would not see and she would have to learn Braille.
And the great irony for us is that we're very visual people and we think visually. I mean, in our business, our entire lives revolve around that. And so to have this particular circumstance was a challenge for us, and probably a challenge for Zelda. Of course, she didn't know the difference, we did. Zelda was the first to walk, she was the first to talk of the twins we have, so she's the pioneer.
When your child is born blind, you go through all of these stages, and of course then it's just maintenance when they're little. Like, oh my God, what do we do? They've got to, grow and potty train and do all these things, and then they start getting into their academic life. We immediately started her being exposed to Braille by tagging things in our home and getting her Braille books, board books for babies. But it wasn't until Holly came into her education in our lives that Zelda really caught on, and now it's just exploding.
It's one thing to put Braille labels on your house, but to teach someone to read that with their fingers is beyond our capability.
When Zelda was in first grade, we started with just a simple calendar system to build that trust and develop those routines. So important for her to anticipate what was going to happen next, so she would be able to work through a lesson. And we did that slowly with just one activity at a time and then a quick break. She had a little simple object calendar system that we used, and we slowly lengthened the time between those activities.
I think that's when we saw how Zelda was reacting to Holly. So we kind of stepped back and said, okay, we're gonna give this part of the life to her. And then we've entrusted Holly with that part of her life. And Sarah Heisey and all of Caleb and Emily, all of the people now at Fulmore.
When I first started working with Zelda, I had to start building things up and start preempting her for things that happen before they actually happen. So weeks or months before we travel to a new environment or we try something different, we have to talk about it.
She loved auditory, she loved music.
Holly, she'd say, well, what do we do with Zelda? I'm like, well, if we can get her music. Evan plays the guitar and sings and has always done that with the kids. From an early age, we would play music for them to go to sleep by. And I sometimes, even now, if we're standing in line and she's freaking out, I will just hand her my iPhone and say, what would you like to hear? I think it's a calming influence to her. It's her kind of her touchstone, her grounding, that it helps us a lot.
I would just do trial and error. I'd find things, I'd pair them with YouTube videos, little songs. It had to be fun. And many times I brought things in that weren't fun, and she would get frustrated and throw them or just refuse to do them. So when I found something that worked, I just built on it. I would just make it more and more challenging. And then we moved on to blend words, and then we eventually moved on to reading stories that way. So I just pulled that auditory in to get her to gain that attention that I needed and for her to learn. And that opened up a whole nother window for her.
It took a while, and Holly never gave up on figuring out the best learning process for Zelda.
In second grade, we introduced tactile symbols, and I started with really simple books that just had one symbol. Like this is a book about her class. I'm in second grade, I'm in Mrs. Ross's class, and this is a symbol for class. And then it talked about her liking to read books, so there's a symbol for book. But the Braille is always here, that's key. I always kept the Braille there, and I always showed her what the Braille was. Never gave up on it. symbol for math. And then she was able to take these books into her classroom and she was able to read with her peers. She loved animals, so I did a lot of books with animals. I was thinking, what does she like? And I was always pairing what she liked with the materials. That way I could engage her and gain her attention.
Working with Holly and working to get social stories of when she was feeling anxious, and there's a social story to explain that, helped her work through her emotions and helped her to process her information and move forward.
By the end of second grade, I set a goal for her to learn 100 tactile symbols, and Zelda mastered 150. They were just in her life. They were everywhere. They were on her schedule. They were in her PE class, in her books. They were part of her behavior plan, and it was hugely successful. When we got to third grade, I thought, well, now it's time to start learning more functional Braille. It was a good transition. I just slowly started taking the symbols away. We would read books without tactile symbols, and we would transition to books like Hop on Pop, for example. I used a lot of Dr. Seuss, a lot of sing-songy music books. And then she was tracking and listening. So she was reading and listening. From there, we just expanded into she was reading functional Braille. She was reading sight words, her family's name, her friends' names, my name, places that she was going, her classes.
With Zelda and the literacy, it opened up her world. She was able to read Braille signs. She was able to read Braille lists. So when we went to the grocery store, she was able to read the list and she knew what she had to find. Now that we're riding the city bus, reading the Braille signs is a huge thing for her.
She quickly went to the Braille, quickly gained those functional words, those basic sight words, and we put those into books, and she was reading those successfully. We were doing double-space lines, and we moved Braille to single-space lines, and she quickly got that. This year we're in 7th grade. She's reading fluently. She's reading the K. She's reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. She read Oliver Twist and loved that this year. Just a sponge for literacy.
Anyone that would go into this profession of being a VI instructor working with the visually impaired pretty early on is going to figure out whether they're cut out for it or not. It's almost like co-parenting. I mean, it's like you decide you want to be with this child or the child decides on you. And then
or hopefully both.
Yeah, and then you have to put up with those days of her slapping you and saying the F word and saying I hate you and then just roll with it and just grow with it because the growth is so amazing. That's when I think it really is it's extraordinary.
You have to know that it's going to be tough some days. You're looking at a very difficult challenge, but one that can be done, as we are seeing born out in our family.
And here we are today, and I never dreamed that Zelda would read contracted Braille. She has mastered almost 60 Braille contractions. I told her mom early on, I don't know if we're going to get to contracted Braille. That's my ultimate goal, to get her there. It's so difficult to learn contractions, and I'm so proud of her.
Now she comes home and she takes out her books and she reads. She listens to her iPad with one hand and she reads Braille with the other hand.
She takes her books everywhere. When she goes to sleep, she takes a stack of 4 Braille books, minimum, up into bed with her, and she lays them down. They never slide away. She's like a teddy bear almost.
Seeing Zelda out in the community, utilizing those life skill lessons is one of those things that you get to experience and see their growth on an everyday basis.
Zelda now asks me, Daddy, what's high school? I don't know that I would have answered that question before.
The future, I don't know. People ask that, and I feel like she's on this learning curve that is just really going faster and faster every day. She's learning more and more, and Holly just pushes her every day so much. We have so many books. They're really thick, and Zelda goes to sleep with them every night.
She's a great reader. The world is open to her. She's got the skills to do great things, and I'm on that journey with her to get her where she needs to go.